Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Nilika from Central University of Jammu. Today we are going to talk on module Cooperative Strategies from paper Strategic Management. Students, following would be the key objectives of the current lesson. To help you students define international strategies, to help you students understand why a firm would want to expand internationally and the relationship between international strategy and other competitive advantages. Also, describe different vehicles for international expansion. Students, today, when you go to a mall or to a park for your morning walk, you will see people wearing Nike or Reebok with their Apple iPods or Dell computers, listening to Hindi rock or an English rock band, or working on their smartphone branded by a company in a developed country, but probably made in China. You'll find people driving a BMW or an Audi on Indian roads. This convergence of customer needs across the globe has translated for companies as an opportunity to continue gaining double-digit growth rates by venturing abroad. It was this convergence of needs that today you'll find Kentucky Fried Chicken, which we popularly know by the name KFC, Coach, Nike, Reebok, IBM, etc., all having a presence in many countries outside their home country. This, students, is referred to as international strategy. The current lesson tries to answer why companies go international. When does a company adopt these strategies and how? Students, strategies are formulated at 3 levels in a business organization. These 3 different levels are corporate level strategy, business level strategy, and functional level strategy. Now, corporate level strategy, business level strategy, and functional level strategies form 3 different levels of strategies. A corporate level strategy includes strategies like stability strategies, cooperative expansion strategies, retrenchment or divestment strategies, and combination strategies. Whereas functional level strategies in a business organization would include research and development, marketing, finance, operations, or human resources. Students, what is a corporate level strategy? A corporate level strategy involves reach. It defines company goals, types of business in which companies should get involved. Number 2, activities and relationships. It helps in developing a relation by sharing and coordinating with the staff. It helps in investing business units in different units to harmonize different business activities. Management practices. Corporates decide how business units are managed by direct corporate intervention or by less government agencies. As mentioned earlier, different types of corporate level strategies in a business organization would include stability strategies, cooperative expansion strategies, defensive retrenchment strategies, or combination strategies. Expansion strategy. Students, every enterprise wants to expand to avoid risk drowning. Expansion provides ample opportunities to the enterprise and is important for it. This is possible after achieving the fundamentals of expansion. Expansion strategies are made in such a way that they help an enterprise to maintain a competitive edge in the international market. Hence, for successful competition, survival, and to flourish, an enterprise has to pursue an expansion strategy. Different types of expansion strategies. Expansion strategies in a business organization could take different forms. A business organization can take up expansion strategies in the form of integration of businesses, diversification, cooperation, or internationalization. International strategies. International expansion is a form of diversification because the company has chosen to operate in a different market. A firm's international strategy is how it approaches a cross-border business activities of its own company and competitors, and how it contemplates doing so in the future. International strategy reflects the choice of a firm's executives make about sourcing and selling its good in the foreign markets. Students, let us understand the reasons for business organizations going international. There are various reasons why companies choose to go global. Some of the reasons are listed here. These could be saturation of the domestic market, small or limited size of domestic markets, different development stages of different activities, attractive cost structures. Companies also go global for search of higher growth rates and market shares. Sometimes companies go global in search of competitive superiority. To look for emerging markets, companies go international. And also, internet is one of the reasons why companies are going global. Students, let us now understand some of the reasons why companies go international. The reasons for companies exploring new markets could be either one of the following: saturation of the domestic markets, and as a result, stagnation in the growth rates of these companies. In such cases, to realize their sales and profit targets, companies have to move out. In some cases, companies enter new segments or markets because of their customer or client demand. For example, when Suzuki entered into India with Maruti, they brought Asahi glass along with them. In some cases, companies move out because of attractive cost structures. Now, for example, the development of Indian service sector and Chinese manufacturing sector are success stories of cost advantages which companies could reap in these countries. The labor cost and competitiveness motivated companies to relocate their operations from developed countries across the globe to India. Some other reasons why companies go international would be: now, countries and continents are in different stages of development. Some companies go global with a product which might have become obsolete in their own market, or it could be considered as a new product in some other market. For example, Apple iPhone has used this strategy very successfully with a phased new product introduction strategy. Under this strategy, a product which has been phased out in US or Europe is introduced and sold as a product range in the developing country. Some companies go global in pursuit of competitiveness and perfection. Technically, because of difference in factors of production, each country has competitiveness in some industry. For example, Italy is known for its leather products, Switzerland for chocolates and cheese, and Germans for their automobile know-how. So, if an Indian company wants to increase its competitiveness about fashion, it might enter Italian market, or for automobile knowledge, enter German market before the competition is motivated to come to Indian market. Sometimes emerging markets are another reason which motivate companies to go global. Sometimes market which were earlier inaccessible because of transportation of policies of the government become available for trade, and the market scope and ease of doing business of these emerging markets motivate the companies to go global. Internet and its capacity to integrate widespread global value chains also motivate companies to go global. Earlier, companies outsourced only in close proximity for want of control and cooperation from the outsourced partner. However, Internet has made it possible to cooperate and control firms in the virtual world, making it possible for the companies. International market expansion strategies. Some of the strategies that companies adopt to enter in international markets are few segments in few countries and multiple segments, or multiple countries concentrated market segment. Companies choose different modes to enter in a different market. Some of the market entry modes that business organizations choose include exporting, sourcing, licensing, franchising, investment, and strategic alliances. Exporting. Students, one of the routes of entry into a global market is through exporting. Ideally speaking, importing and exporting are two sides of the same coin. There has to be an importer for export to happen and vice versa. However, the stakes of an importer and an exporter are completely different, and hence these two have been discussed as separate routes of entry into global markets. It is important for you to understand that export selling is different activity from export marketing. Export selling involves selling a standardized product with a standardized strategy mix in different places, whereas export strategies work with adapting the strategy mix to international customers. As a route of market entry, we are referring to export selling. Stages of exporting strategy. Evolution of exporting as a route of entry can be divided into following stages. The first stage is where the company is unwilling to export the product out of the home country and is not looking for any sort of expansion markets. The second stage is where a company fills unsolicited export orders. This is a phase where the company is not actively pursuing a foreign market. However, does not refuse an order when it comes its way. For example, while exploring the internet, you find a supplier in China who is not present in India, not of strategies for Indian people. However, when you pursue him, he is ready to make an exception for you. This is referred to as unsolicited exports. As the number of unsolicited exports increase, the company is motivated to explore the feasibility of exporting to the other country or countries. In this stage, stage 4, the company undertakes exporting as an experiment to test the strategies and environmental enablers in the target segment. In this stage, the company is an experienced exporter. In this stage, the market, the company of exporting has to increase in size and therefore consistent gains its own demand and manufacturing. But the company does not want to set up a manufacturing unit in the host country. Therefore, it pursues exporting strategy to enter the market, but also pursues country-focused marketing. It is important to note that it is the commitment of a company that is changing across these 6 stages. As discussed in the earlier section, a company can engage in export activity by deciding to conduct it as a part-time activity performed by domestic employees or through an export partner or through an export department or else through an export department with an international division. Also, for multi-divisional companies, each possibility exists within each division. For ease of understanding, students, these have been clustered together into 3 categories. 1. Indirect exporting. 2. Cooperative exporting. And 3. Direct exporting. Indirect exporting is kind of exports that happens when the company sells its products to a global market through an intermediary located in the home country, but with some connections in the host country. In this case, company might decide to hire a stakeholder like export management company to help out with the process. Cooperative exporting. This kind of export happens when the company decides on a middle ground between direct and indirect exporting. This method of entering foreign markets is usually adopted by the companies who will not want to commit resources to set up own distribution channels but still want control over the strategies, processes and sub-processes. Third, direct exporting. These kinds of exports happen when the company decides to sell its product to the global market not through an intermediary but directly, either through its own exporting department or through an exclusive intermediary in the foreign market. Sourcing. Sourcing decisions refer to decisions regarding purchase of raw materials, complements or services from companies located in other countries on basis of their price and comparable quality. These days, customers' value is tied into customer value and has been referred to as country of origin decisions. For example, nationalistic customers' perspective, they perceive made in India as superior. Similarly, customers across the globe perceive those products manufactured in America are of superior quality and value. These days, a company's competitive advantage is also tied into sourcing decisions. For example, companies in US have been able to deal with cost competitiveness across the globe by sourcing products, raw materials, or services from countries like India and China. By leveraging company know-how and cost advantages from these countries, these global marketeers have been able to tap into new opportunities across the globe. Another important means of entry students into a host economy is through licensing. Licensing refers to a contractual agreement or arrangement between two companies where the licensor makes an asset available to the licensee for a fixed fee referred to as royalties, license fees, or some other form of compensation. The license might be regarding any asset available with the licensor company. For example, a patent, a trade secret, a brand name, and or a product formulation. Also, it could be a company name. Main advantages of licensing are: 1. It allows companies to enter foreign markets with little initial investment. Second, it helps companies recover the research and development costs it has incurred on developing this unique asset that the other company wants to license. Third, it helps company gain easy access to a foreign market. 4. Licensor would have low exposure to political and economic risks of the other country. 5. It allows company to find a way around the tariffs and non-tariff barriers in a target host country. Now students, there are some disadvantages of licensing also, and these are opportunity costs because it is a limited form of participation. Secondly, technology risks as the licensor lacks control over the licensee's strategies program. Third, there is also a financial risk because of this lesser degree of control. And lastly, this might lead to creating of a competition in the market. The agreement may be short-lived if the licensee develops its own expertise. Franchising. Franchising is a licensing strategy. A franchisee is a contract between two companies, that is, a franchisor and a franchisee. The contract allows the franchisee to operate a business developed by the franchisor in return for a fee and adherence to a wide policies and practices. This method tries to circumvent one of the major limitations of licensing route of entry, that is, lack of control over the licensee activities. Some of the main advantages of franchising are that companies can capitalize on asset overseas with a minimum of investment. Political risks are very limited. Franchisor can reap profits with less investment in the foreign country. Local knowledge can be secured and used by the franchisor and the franchisee. On the other hand, there are some disadvantages of franchising. These could be that the income stream is lower than through exporting or through ownership, lesser control over foreign operations than investments. Also, cultural hurdles can cause problems sometimes. Investment. Students, companies can choose to enter into foreign country or economy through foreign direct investment. This method of entry helps the companies realize their desire for partial or full ownership outside the home country. Foreign direct investment, or FDI as it is popularly known as, reflects investment flows out of the home country as companies invest in or acquire plants, equipment, or other assets. FDI allows companies to produce, sell, and compete locally in key markets. Investment via ownership or equity stake. The most extensive form of participation is foreign economy is achieved by startup of new operations in foreign economy by investing in the operations or by merger and acquisitions of an existing enterprise. Strategic alliances. Strategic alliances are partnerships between businesses with the purpose of achieving common goals while minimizing risks and maximizing leverage. These alliances are motivated by the desire of the companies to benefit from those facets of their operations that complement each other. Surprisingly, many old competitive rivals choose this form of market expansion. Cooperative relationships have increased mainly because firms no longer have the capacity to develop all the technologies in-house. Students, there are various types of strategic alliances. These could be licensing, a strategic alliance in the form of franchising, a strategic alliance in the form of joint venture, or a strategic alliance in the form of a global strategic partnership. Some of these have been discussed in the diversification strategies lessons. Students, you can see an international product life cycle. This model of international product life cycle was proposed by Raymond Vernon and Louis Wells. This model explains that how a manager in the international setting or international economy decides what to export, where to export, and when. International product life cycle. Life cycle concept, students, of global trade highlights a sequential model for global trade. It states that a company goes through an exporting phase before switching first to market seeking FDI and then to cost-oriented FDI. This brief model states that by end of the international product life cycle, the exporter himself will become an importer of goods. This model of international product life cycle proposed by Raymond Vernon states that there is a distinction between developed countries and developing countries in terms of resources available. The new product development process requires large number of resources which are relatively easily available in a developed economy than in a developing one. Over a period of time, as the product starts approaching maturity, the stage the company starts looking for growth options. The motivation in this stage is to find the market which is similar to the home country so that minimum additional costs have to be incurred in adaptation of the product. Therefore, the company would ideally start exporting to the other countries, which are all at the same level of development and have similar nuances of demand. So, students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. The current lesson talks about international strategies. International expansion is a form of diversification because the company has chosen to operate in different markets. A firm's international strategy is how it approaches the cross-border business activity of its own company and the competitors, and how it contemplates doing so in the future. International strategy reflects the choices a firm's executives make about sourcing and selling its good in different markets. This lesson discusses three aspects of international strategies, like why a company would go international, how do they go international, and when do they go international. In How Do They Go International, the lesson talks about market entry strategies or routes. Market entry refers to a company deciding how it actually wants to get the physical product to the customer of the target market segment. Up to this stage, the market has been planning and hypothesizing what it wants to. This is the point where it actually decides how to do what it wants to. In When to Go International, we discuss the international product life cycle. Thank you.